Welcome to NA Let's Chat, everybody. I'm EJ Wesley. We are a weekly discussion of all things in new adult literature and sometimes beyond. And occasionally we do these fun little audio things where we live stream via YouTube, and then we have guests and so on and so forth. Our guests primarily tonight are going to be made up of our own team. We have Alicia Kat Vance Hill here with us tonight. We have Amy Evans, and we have Lindsay L.K. Lewis with us. So we'll have plenty of chatter, and we'll be kicking actually out to you guys on Twitter tonight as well. I'll share the link here in just a few minutes, and if any of you guys want to come join us, we're talking basically Campfire Tales tonight. We're talking about what we're up to this summer, sort of reading, lists that we've got going. Maybe you're actually getting some writing done, unlike me this summer. All kinds of things like that. So, anyways, we'll try to keep order tonight, but we'll see what happens. We're going to have a lot of people on and off here. Amy Evans, since you're jamming over there, why don't we start with you? How are you, and what have you been up to this summer?
I didn't mean to do that. I'm great. What have I been up to? Well, I'm still I think I'm still in half recovery mode from partying with you guys in Nashville. We are still on the flip side of Utopia and all the buzzy goodness that comes with that. And I've got some cool projects coming up this week with that I'm going to launch, and that's going to be cool and fun. And I'm at the Bungalow Colony. I sometimes call it my Dirty Dancing Summer because it's straight out of the 1960s, and it looks and feels and acts just like that movie. And my kids go to camp here, and I get to hang out with all my friends here, and my husband comes up whenever he can, and it's at the base of the Catskills, and it's very old school and very fun.
I envy your summer. I wish I was in the Catskills at a cabin doing fun things. I've been moving all summer, so my summer's not been glorious, and we're not gonna dwell on that. We're not gonna precipitate on what I've been doing because it's not been fun. But
I sympathize because I did that all year. So.
Right, exactly. Like, you got yours done. I wish I had done mine during the non-fun portions of the year. That would've been awesome. Like in wintertime when nothing else is going on. But
you're in California.
Oh no, moving in winter is terrible.
It's good here. Winter's awesome. Like, it's like 60 degrees. It's beautiful.
Except for when it's raining buckets.
It hasn't rained in California in 5 years, Kat. Do you watch the news?
Yeah, no, I had to move a few weeks before Christmas when I was 12 in the rain. It sucks. It sucks when you can't put items in a room because you're waiting for paint to dry for 2 days.
Yeah, we had that a little bit when we moved into my house in the winter here because I felt like it smelled like paint for 3.5 months because we just couldn't open the windows long enough to get it to dry properly. And
yeah, it was it's not fun.
Although moving in summer has bonuses.
Moving in summer, other than it being super hot.
It's not been bad. Like, we've been pretty fortunate.
Oh no, this year's been fine.
So, Kat, I got a sneak preview of what you've been up to this summer, or like lately anyways, earlier, but why don't you tell everybody what you've been up to this summer?
What I've been up to this summer, revamping my previous series, working on my next series that are coming out, redoing covers, redoing website, having conversations with Amazon about why my series page is suddenly missing and not linked up to my paper books and my digital books.
Amazon is a mystery wrapped in an enigma. I mean, like, when anybody out there listening, or just period in NA Lit Chat figures out Amazon. I know Stephanie S.J. Pajonas, she was having fights with them about getting one of her stories up recently. Thanks to Prime Day.
Yeah, but yeah, it was like, really? Prime Day? You thought that would be a great time to upload things? I'm like, avoiding that half of the internet.
Well, in fairness, it is Amazon. Like, it's like Google, like, not having their shit together. Like, you just don't expect it. Like, if Google's ever has Fritzy or something, you're just like, then the whole internet must be destroyed because, if Amazon and Google can't pull it off, then nobody can. But,
that was like the day when Facebook crashed, the whole internet freaked out.
Well, Lindsay, what have you been up to this summer?
So, I live in a beautiful area of the Midwest in northern Michigan, which is a tourist town.
Right out of a Kid Rock song.
Yes, yes. And if you know Amy Evans, I may be found on the internet singing on stage that song exactly in Nashville. So thank you for that one, miss.
I sent it privately. I didn't-
Actually, it's not horrible because I sang softly and kind of like just bounced a little bit and danced. So I didn't make a complete fool of myself. So
It
that
was
was great.
really hot little Nashville guitar boy. So
Oh yeah, he was cute. Yes, I live in northern Michigan, and we have basically 3 months to make money for the entire year. And what the majority of us do. I, on top of writing, am a massage therapist and makeup artist, and so I've just been working my buns off doing massage, and I do a lot of bridal makeup. We have this beautiful castle in our town. If you've ever seen Alfred Hitchcock's The Rope,
Like a real castle?
it's a real castle, and the storyline from The Rope with the two friends that killed their friend and then had dinner while he was stuffed in like the trunk and like invited his fiance, and it was really weird. That is actually a true story based upon the Leopold Loeb murder that happened to the Loeb family that owned the castle in my town. So there's a lot of rich history in this castle, but now a new couple owns it, and they've turned it into this great place for functions and events, and a lot of people hold their wedding there, and I do a lot of bridal makeup for them. So I've been doing a lot of work and having a whole lot of fun and trying to get some writing in when possible, and boat days and friend time and all that stuff. But I've been busy. That's what I've been up to.
Yeah, so on Twitter,
We have 2 castles in our state.
Patricia Lynn said, referencing Lindsay where she lives, she's like, does she live in Michigan? Pretty sure we get 1 day of summer here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that we've had like actual summer weather for like a day or two, but yeah, it's been a little chilly and a little rainy, but today was gorgeous, and this weekend, once some of the rain goes by, it should be nice. They keep saying it's going to be nice, so let's keep our fingers crossed.
So if you're listening in, this is a little different than what we normally do audio-wise. We're just going to kind of keep it casual and flowing. We decided to do it as an official hangout so everybody could listen in on YouTube. We will be inviting you guys here in just a short time to jump on air with us and chit-chat. And if you have a microphone handy on your computer, we'd love to have you on to chat. We are not an aggressive group at all whatsoever. So I did want to share. I got quite a bit of good news flowing in here. Elizabeth Barone says, at Elizabeth Barone, she says, I'm so excited I almost never get to participate in any lit chat because I'm usually still slaving away at my computer. So welcome, Elizabeth. We're excited to have you. Let's see. Author S.A. Hunt says, it's not NA, but I just published a short story set in my fantasy gunslinger series. I'm sold, S.A., because I like the fantasy gunslinger idea. I'm a huge fan of Stephen King's Dark Tower series, and so I think that's exciting to me. And actually, where did we have this conversation? We had a long conversation somewhere at some point about like our favorite sort of genre mashups. I think this was one of our Twitter topics, right? Like one of our chat topics a few weeks ago. And that's one of mine actually. I love like Western sci-fi. Like that's such a cool setting.
Firefly.
Exactly. Firefly is so
Cowboy
awesome.
Bebop.
Essay's also still seeking an agent for his NA Dark Fantasy, which I would love to see you get an agent for that. Love to see it. The Query Fairy says she's going to be working on her cover soon, so that's exciting. And I said that is indeed exciting. Elizabeth also shared good news. She says, I'm working on the 3rd book in my South of Forever series. The 1st book comes out in August 4th, so that's coming soon, Elizabeth. That's exciting. I wonder if that's your first book or if it's your first book ever out, or is it just the first of the series out? Either way, it's still pretty damn exciting. Jules of Triple R says, submitting to publishers from yesterday's Pit to Pub. I guess that's another one of those like Pit Mad type of things here on Twitter where everybody tweets in, to publishers and things like that, their ideas for their stories. 3 faves on my college NA romance and 1 on my Mel Cowboy NA series. Anyone else? I didn't participate in it because I've been swamped, but I do tend to keep an eye on those things. I'll search them like Pit Mad and stuff just to see, see what's out there, see what people are doing. I'm not an idea stealer. Like, I know authors we're always so suspicious of that, like people taking our ideas. But
Oh, really? Oh, that's
yeah, I think a lot of people are. What do you guys think? Like,
Oh my
does that
God.
ever cross your mind? Are you ever worried somebody's going to take your idea?
I heard some really good advice on that one time, because we all, we're writers, we are all creative. Even if two writers went to write the same book about basically the same thing, two different books would come out. And you may have someone like both books, but for the most part, I don't know. I don't really worry about that sort of stuff.
Yeah, actually, I don't know. It's something that comes up when we're in school for illustration, right? Where they basically just say, somebody else is going to have the same idea as you. Just stop caring.
Yeah.
But I actually had somebody email me once. It was a few months ago, because they saw one of my boards on Pinterest, and they followed me, and they were like, oh my God, you're making a book that's like my book, and I don't want you to think I'm copying you and all of this stuff. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm sure it's going to be different because you're not me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that, it's one of those things also that can seem like a negative but could turn into a positive, because ideas are sort of in the ether, right? And if more than one person is writing about it at one time, then that probably also maximizes the audience. Like it catches. It's like if one person's interested in vampire books and one person's writing vampire books, that's great and all. If 10 people are interested in reading them and 2 people are writing them, that's even better. If 3 people are writing, then maybe 100 people are interested in reading. And the truth of the matter is, no matter how fast you write, readers are going to read faster. So, let them be busy with something that resembles or reminds them of yours, because that's going to keep them coming back to yours.
Yep.
It's definitely not about the competition here. We need eyeballs and people excited. And as somebody who definitely has one of those books where everyone's like, oh my God, I've never read anything like this. It's kind of a compliment, but it's also kind of hard.
Right. Well, and I think to me, it always comes back to voice. Trust your voice, and work on it. Make that one of, and it's always so elusive. It's always so hard. You talk to any agent, any publisher, anybody, any writer that's been at this very long. Finding a unique voice, meaning when you open a Stephen King book or John Green book or J.K. Rowling or Stephanie Meyer, it's distinctly theirs. There's no mistaking it. You read 4 or 5 pages, it's theirs. That's what all of us have to master. We all have to try to figure that out. And this is where that comes in for me. I don't worry about it, because yes, I could write another of the 5 billion vampire books that are out there, but it's not going to sound or read like anybody else's, because it's me. It'll have my sense of humor. It'll have my whatever in it. And so I think for me, ultimately, it comes down to, yeah, you can be paranoid. And I used to not worry about it because everybody, I didn't think anybody could write that fast, humanly write that fast. They could take my idea and finish it before I could. That's totally not true.
Casey Bond?
Yeah, there are so many faster authors out there than me. So yeah, there are definitely people that could probably take my idea and whip it into a decent story in a few weeks' time that takes me a year to do. But again, it's just not going to be the same as your voice. So that's one of those areas I think you just have to come back and trust your, how you tell a story.
Well, and the flip side of that is, I think that you can use that for inspiration. I mean, I have, as I'm sure we all do, we have folders of ideas that have come to you, and some of them are, 5 paragraphs, and some of them are 5,000 words, and some of them are 50,000 words, and sometimes you put them off for other projects. But if all of a sudden you see a whole bunch of authors selling things that are similar to that, for you to decide to put some attention to that idea that was already a part of you, that can be a good move. You're not following a trend. You're not oh my God, I hate Step Brother books, but let me go write one, please, because they're selling. That's not what it's about. But I'm really into the Russian Revolution and the Anastasia story, and I have something that's a very, very loose outline that has been sitting in my folder for a long time, and there are a couple things that have popped up into my world. I'm oh, there's a couple things that are coming out next year. This might be a good time for this. It's not, I don't think what I'm working on is anything even close to what anybody else is doing, or vice versa. But, it can be nice to have interest, right? Like it can be nice to pay attention to your ideas that you feel like there is interest out there for. And in that respect, it's not necessarily about stealing anything. It's more about like, hey, like there's some commonalities and we can use it for good.
Yeah, like a good thing to think about. Hi, by the way, I'm here now.
Hey, what's up, Chris?
I'm doing good. But to jump into the conversation directly, like the reality is like people just no idea is original anymore. The internet exists, and everyone's heard of everything by now. And any new idea you've had has been had 50,000 times already. So it's not more about stealing things unless it's like legit plagiarism. If it's not legit plagiarism, which it usually isn't, just write it because it will be different from everything else out there. That won't mean it's good, but that's up to you as a writer.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's basically what I told her. I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm not going to be upset. I'm going to be like, oh, maybe we could make a cross-promotional event of books that are similar.
Yeah, and like it's okay to be like inspired by other books. Like we've all done that where we've seen a book and it's like I could do that better, and we just
God, yes.
story. Like half of my books were inspired by other books or stories. I'm like, that book was boring. I'm going to do this.
Yup.
Michael Simcoe just tweeted, I'm doing the NA Lit Chat Super Theft book. Baseball playing dolphin marries a demon in space.
There you go.
At least he spelled it right.
It's going to be a hit, Michael. Undoubtedly.
How fun would that be? Go, run with the bow. I love it.
I'm super jealous of the Wilds, by the way. She said she's getting lots of writing and editing done for this summer. And in a few weeks, she's going to a FurryCon to meet FurryCon. Sorry. What is the FurryCon? I'll let Kat answer here in a minute. To meet fans, readers, and friends. So, of the Wilds, I think that's badass. I wish I were doing all those things this summer.
Are you actually asking me for my...
Yeah, what is a FurryCon? I don't know what the hell that is.
Okay, I've never actually gone, but it's basically like people who like to dress up as animals.
Animals, yeah.
Kind
They'll
of
like wear a tail, and they either they role play as an animal, or they might think they are an animal. It's weird.
This is why I love
It's
having two of the
like
geekiest
Disney
people I know, and Chris and
mascots,
Kat.
but not so cute. But some of the costumes are actually fantastic feats of engineering and costume crafts. So.
Well, I can imagine. Like, I think it would be. I don't know why I thought Fury. I thought it was actually a typo on her part. It was actually a typo in my brain. I was pronouncing. Well, that's interesting. If nothing else, you'd see lots of sites and stuff like that. But,
Oh yeah.
it reminds. When I was in Baltimore one time, they had one of the big anime conventions. Yeah, it was a huge deal, and like it basically was a FurryCon because everybody there was dressed up like a fox or a panda bear or something.
Excuse me, they're called kitsunes.
What was that, Chris?
They're called kitsunes. Excuse you.
Yup.
Yeah, anime gets weird.
Yeah.
Jules of Triple R had this to say about people like thefting your work, and she's like, I didn't even consider it when she was doing like the pit to pub thing, because if someone thinks they can do it better, she says go for it. And
pit to pub.
It's a hashtag thing. It's like the
where you pitch ideas.
Yeah. It's just another like PitMed's a very common one, but I guess this is kind of a new one or something. It may not be new. It may have been around forever. I'm just not hip. But anyways, but I do think you've like there's so many things in writing that's in publishing for sure that strip away your confidence. So I love the attitude. Like I think we've all really got to embrace like your inner writing badass and just be confident in what you do. And
that's me. I did that. It works.
I know.
Confirm.
It's much easier said than done. I know it, but
like it's really just like nothing matters until your book is done. So worry about nothing until your book is done, because that's what it really boils down to. It's like if you're wasting time freaking out about who's stealing your work or what other works are out there that are doing it better than you, you're not writing. So stop that and write.
Yeah,
exactly.
no, I totally agree.
I think the other thing about that is that like people can get a little bit freaked out by that if they're submitting, if they're querying or submitting to publishers, because there is a fact of the industry where an agent might say to you, I can't take on your young adult Amish kids in space book because I already have a young adult Amish kids in Facebook, and that would be an actual conflict of interest. And that's legit. I mean, it's one person, it's one company. They have to go out with their best foot forward, and maybe they find out that everybody wants an Amish kids in Facebook, and they call you back a couple months later and said, hey, I actually do need a second one. Can we still come and talk? Or maybe a publisher is like, I already did my, YA Amish kids in Facebook this year. I'm sorry. I can't help you, but there might be another publisher that can. So it's not unrealistic to look at the landscape and say, hey, I need to have something that's different than other people, but that's not the same as people taking your ideas,
Yeah. But I guess that's kind of the inherent difference of indie versus traditional.
Absolutely.
On how large of a concern is that?
It's not a concern if you're indie, but if you're hard set on one agent and that agent picked up something identical to yours right before, then that just kind of wasn't meant to be, and that can be hard to hear.
And the cool reality is that indie exists, and if people don't want your book, well, screw them. You can make your book exist regardless of them. There's nothing stopping you anymore.
Yeah.
So we're not locked in the old days where we have to send a billion, manuscripts to the big pubs and hope to God that they publish it. That was more secure for those people who got in. However, it wasn't good for everyone.
Actually done.
Yes.
I pitched one article in my life mainly as a kind of a confident booster to someone else who was more shy. We'll do it together, and and it got published. So I'm 1 for 1. I think I'll stop there.
Theo Taylor just tweeted to me, and this was a private tweet to me. And Theo, I will send you a link to your reply to this because you're probably not listening. But I just wanted to get all these fine people we have on air's opinion of his question. He says, since you started the hashtag, can I get your definitive opinion on what constitutes NA? Well, first of all, Theo, my opinion matters squat, but and that's just God's honest truth.
I actually had to look this up this week, or this past week, because I was defining it for somebody else.
And so, my official answer is always to point people towards naalley.com. Read the definition there. It's real big on the website, because that's generally my opinion. That's why I joined with that website, and that's why I do that. I feel like NA is anything with protagonists and intended for readers of that 18 to 26-ish age frame. It's about that lifetime frame. It could be fantasy, it could be romance, it could be anything. It's not YA, it's more mature than that. But it's not adult either. You're still talking coming of age stories. And so that's my basic general definition of what I think NA is.
Yeah, I have a similar definition. It's it's YA but with a deeper tone and less restrictions on censorship and whatnot. But it's not adult literature in the sense that it doesn't really cater to that audience, because a 50-year-old with an alcohol problem who's the downtrodden cop is going to have completely different concerns from the rookie cop who just got in on his first day. Completely different. Cater to an audience. This one happens to be in a college age.
Simcoe said he still loves the crit group that thought he was writing nude adult, not new adult.
Well, no judgment, but that's something else.
Right.
Well, you might write nude new adults.
Or
I think that's called erotica.
You might write new adult in the nude. There's a lot of different ways that could happen.
I do want to throw in before we get to Kat's answer and Amy's thoughts and Kay's thoughts. Your mileage varies greatly on what people think NA is. If you talk to indie authors, I think you're going to get a very different answer than if you talk to agents and people that are publishing traditionally. And that's basically all I'll say about that, because I've actually had that experience lately where you get very different ideas about what they think new adult is, where it's going, and all those kinds of things. So I would say, again, it just kind of varies on who you talk to. But what, Amy, Kat, do you guys have any thoughts on what new adult is or isn't?
You want to go ahead first, Kat?
Okay. I actually got most of my definition from what Wikipedia says it's about. Other than the solid age bracket, I would just say it's the age of majority in the culture that it's set in. because that can vary wildly depending on where you are in the world or what planet you happen to be on. But it says that a lot of the themes that are covered are the same as young adult identity, sexuality, depression, abuse, struggles, bullying. But a lot of the issues that are not covered in YA that are covered in NA are first jobs, starting college, wedding engagements, marriage, starting new families, dealing with friendships post-high school, military enlistment, financial independence, and living away from home for the first time, fear of failure, and loss of innocence. So.
Yeah, that covers it.
Yeah, this is a pretty solid article. I put it
yeah.
in Twitter for those who want to read it. It's going to pop up in a second. But yeah, this is pretty solid.
Wikipedia one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the
This is a lot
two
better
things
than when
I
I
point
looked
to.
at it. When I looked at it, it was awful. But now it's much better.
Yeah. So actually, I want to see if NA Alley is one of the references at the bottom.
That'd be fun. Let's see. Let's go explore.
So I just tweeted something. I was really excited because I was in a library, like up here. It's a pretty small town at the base of the Catskills, and I was in there with my kids earlier this week, and they actually had a new adult section in the library. And I think that this is particularly interesting, especially in light of what EJ just touched on. But their basic definition was that new adult are books about the transitional time between childhood and adulthood, which is actually
That's really accurate.
That's a really good quick little blurby.
It's really accurate, and I thought that it was so validating to sort of see it in this. This is not a mainstream library, you know. This isn't New York.
Yeah, you have the picture too. That's so cool.
Yeah, I was really psyched, and I felt like that was such a beautiful.
Yeah, she just posted it on Twitter.
I thought that was such a beautifully simple definition. I was, of course, really psyched that it didn't include sex, right?
Right.
And I think that it's really interesting in light of what you just said and in light of the whispers that I hear around town, which is that the publishers don't want new adult and the agents don't want new adult. And it so reminds me of what happened with Twilight, which was, you know, they were all over it. They saturated the market by gobbling up like anything that could sparkle, you know, like so fast that they saturated their own market. But that's what built, you know, self-publishing, because, you know, maybe Random House didn't need another vampire book because they'd released 30 in, you know, 6 months' time, and that's not smart for any business. But the audience was out there, and the audience could kind of read 30 good, you know, vampire books in that time frame. They wouldn't necessarily read 30 that were put out in a rush because they didn't turn out well, and that really built the indie market for sure. And I feel like these publishers are now saying, you know, maybe they don't want it, or they only want a few, or agents aren't looking for it, but they've actually made the market, right? Like, they've actually made the market enough that this little tiny library in the middle of the Catskills has a whole new section on it. So are they going to stop feeding the market now that they've actually created it? It's mind-boggling to me. But
I think like the big publishing industry just has this problem where it needs to make money to sustain itself, and the way they do that is by pushing a lot of product out, but they don't really think about like the market at large as an art form. And when you have like 1 billion Twilight copies, then people are not going to be like, I don't need to read this. I'll just read the other Twilight books. And you kind of see the same thing with NA right now. So I would think that if there is like some sort of market collapse of NA, it'll just kind of chill out for a while. We'll have a drought, and all of the stuff will be indie, and anything that comes out indie that gets super successful will inspire big publishers to take more risk, because they're very risk averse. That's the whole thing it comes down to.
It's the pendulum swinging the other way for a little while and then back again.
Yeah, because it's like if they can't see NA selling, they aren't going to publish it. But
and
that
I
doesn't
think
mean NA doesn't sell. It just means no one's buying their books.
And I think this is one thing to be mindful of when it comes to that stuff, is just because, like, it may not even mean NA's not selling. It may mean that they're getting, because a lot of NA, like especially the NA that is not erotica NA, is very transitional. It is, I mean, we've talked a lot before about John Green's Fault in Our Stars, how that could easily be an NA story. You've got a kid going to college. You've got, you know, they're having sex in this book. They're doing things that NA people do. But there, when you talk about publishers, there is a definitive, well-defined, huge booming market for YA right now, especially these YA, upper YA stories. They're all being made into movies right now. And I mean, it started with things like The Perks of Being a Wallflower and stuff like that. And like you're getting these sort of upper YA stories. I think what happens a lot of times is when agents see these kinds of stories, if they are NA, and not just agents but publishers too, why would they publish it as new adult when they're going to basically have to do some like world-defining thing and say, you know, this is a non-erotica new adult? There haven't been many publishers step out and like do that. A lot of indie authors are trying to do that. You know, carve out this niche to say, you know what, new adult could be sci-fi, it could be fantasy, it could be all these things, contemporary, coming of age. But why would they do that? Why would they push a story that direction when they know they have a market for YA? And if they get it reworked just slightly and make it an upper YA story, it could be huge. Like it could make lots of money for them. So whereas otherwise it's just sort of some weird albatrossy thing out there that they don't know what to do with.
Well,
so
and that's just the label, right? I mean, upper YA is NA, which is upper YA, which
but
is
it's a label they can sell, I think.
But there's a section in the bookstore or on Amazon labeled upper YA.
Since when?
Since ever. Like, I mean, but you know, there's no it just says young adult teen. That's it. Like it doesn't say upper YA.
Oh yeah, because Amazon just doesn't make that fine of a distinction, and usually neither do publishers, although they will, like, I guess, like, underhandedly, although that's a horrible word, like, they acknowledge that this niche in the genre exists, but they just want to sell books. That's all that matters to them. So if they aren't going to go out on a limb because they think this one author has written the next Ulysses, they're going to just publish what sells, and that's going to fit in the genres that already exist in our stable, unlike NA, which is still growing.
Yeah.
So, like, when we have our first big sci-fi or fantasy or whatever genre of NA that's not romance-focused, we're going to see a lot more follow in its wake.
Yeah, probably. Most likely.
And the fact is, like,
I said, I feel like really seriously, is still pretty much in its infancy. Like, we're just really getting the ball rolling on a lot of it. And it definitely started out as one thing, but I think there are enough people out there interested in seeing it grow. Like, I'll be honest, like, I'll write NA forever and call it NA, whether it traditionally publishes or I have to publish it all myself, just because I love it. Like, I like the idea of it. And I feel like there are definitely people that want to read it. And so maybe that's a gamble on our part as indie authors. We talk about publishers not wanting to take risks or whatever. It's just easier for indie authors to do that because we're a single entity and we're not investing millions of dollars into this.
Yeah.
Most of us.
And like for people who are like worried about that stuff, just look at other industries because you see the exact same thing happening in video games, in movies, all those things. The way movies handled it is like they got a tiny chunk of their global profits and they're like, okay, here, give this to this indie movie. They'll hopefully do good. If they don't, it was like $2, whatever. With the video game industry, no one will publish those games like by the indie creators, so they're like, screw it, we'll publish it, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's confusing because money sucks, but that doesn't mean you can't make money, and that doesn't mean you can't write these books. It just means it's the struggle once you finish writing it.
Right.
If you'll notice, too, a lot of the, I guess, somewhat YA, but a lot of NA movies of like the 80s and early 90s are now being redone because there's this huge, insurgence of everyone's reading, reading YA, reading a lot of new adults, and so thirsty for it, and it's such part of the culture now that they're like, hey, we could jump on this train with movies that we already know are a huge hit and do it all over again and make our money again with just new, fresh faces. So that's kind of interesting, too. There's definitely something to our little new adult culture right now.
Yeah,
So we
because
gotta-
like the global market is always going to shift. People are going to want to hear different stories, which is why like 10 years ago we didn't like violence. Violence was just a taboo. No violence at all. And nowadays we got Game of Thrones where heads are just flying off and there's blood everywhere. It just happens. We change. Maybe like in 10 years people are going to go back and be like, ew, violence is gross. We need classy stories now. But until that happens,
Right.
These
You know.
stories.
that we're in the moment and we are writing what we think fits in a market or what we just want to write. Whether it fits or not is regardless. Just get that book out.
So at S. Shusher Evans to
Shusher.
let people- Shusher. I still want to go. Oh my God! Every time I say her name, I love it. She mentioned that she's been reading. She got in late to the chat tonight, and she said she's been reading up Storm, which is unusual because she spends most of her time writing, which I think is common for lots of us. And so I was thinking that about summertime, like sometimes that gives us a chance to kind of. A lot of times life's just so chaotic, especially if you have kids that are home and all that kind of thing. That it's really hard to do anything but read or get, that's kind of your writing. And that is productive writing time to me. Like, reading is very important. So, but anyway, she tweeted me, like, her whole Goodreads review list. So I was like, what have you been reading? And she sent me a whole list.
She's like,
Anyways,
all the
I've
books.
invited people from Twitter to come on air and share what they've been reading, and we'll go around the horn. But first I want to introduce Michael Simcoe.
Oh, howdy.
Welcome, sir.
Simcoe.
Go.
Hey. You put the chat link in there, so somebody had to join you.
Right.
You know what's so funny? Before we started this, I was like, $10 so Simcoe joins.
Oh, you picked the right week, because I've got a writing workshop next week. So,
Oh, nice. Okay, well, cool.
Well, so the question I asked was, what have you been reading? If you've had a chance to read this summer at all, what have you been getting into? So, Michael, what have you gotten into?
Oh, I've been reading well, you're gonna like it, nonfiction. So a lot
What?
of tornado and weather chasing.
Oh, okay, so it's
Wow.
research.
So it's research / I've also maybe been reading Butterman Games or Butterman Time Travel.
Nice.
And then
Oh,
catching up on
yay.
yeah.
Shout
So
out.
she's not
Shout
here, so no
out,
problem.
shout out.
That's on my to-be read list.
Yep.
Yeah, it's on my TV red list too. I need to get to that.
I had, like, when we had the promo back in March, I bought, like, a whole bunch of books, and they were just sitting there in line.
Yep, that happens to me with video games. I understand the struggle.
Yeah.
So you've been doing research for your Tornado book,
It's Tornado and a Romance.
and Tornado in a Romance. Let's preface that.
That
Is it still? Is that
sounds
still the
epic.
plan? Is it still going
I'm
to be
so
Tornado?
excited for that.
I'm not sure it really. Well, it has a romance plot. It's not a romance.
Oh, I see.
It's a thriller.
How is that different?
The tornado is a metaphor.
Chris, you're right in the back cover. You know that, right? Just let Chris guess at what it is. Put that on the back cover.
I think the technical term is with romantic elements. That's what.
Yeah,
that- I struggled to find that for my baseball story because I was like, it's not a traditional romance, but I want to have it known that there is a romance in it. And somebody, I forget even who gave me that terminology. They're like, it has romantic elements. I'm like, you are a damn genius. Thank you.
so, well, okay, what's the difference between a romance and has romantic elements?
A lot.
Has
lot.
romantic elements is just like it's saying there is romance, but not a lot. So don't get your expectations too
A
high.
romance is the plot. The plot is romance, meaning the relationship is the plot of the book. Whether they get together or don't get together. You can Google, just Google how to write a
Oh.
romance novel. And
Yeah, like a good example that probably anyone could relate to, Lolita by Nabokov. Romantic elements, not a romance. Romantic elements. It's about something entirely different.
Oh yeah, I'm reading a book where they were dissecting. It was about story. Oh, my friend Gwen's here.
Hello, Gwen.
Hi, Gwen.
Hi, Fred and Grin.
They were dissecting that story, Charlotte's Web, and Harry Potter to help you understand how stories are created.
Yeah.
So
Harry
I
Potter
don't know what
has
that's
romantic
about
elements.
because of that.
Romance is also, though, usually they push that a true romance has to have a happily ever after.
That's true.
At
At the very least, it needs a happily for now.
Again, just Google
Huh.
tenets or fundamentals of writing a romance novel, and,
Yep.
Huh.
and you'll see the difference in it.
Well, and The flip side of that is if you sell as a romance and you don't do an HEA, people are pissed. But
Right.
if you don't focus on that, then you can do whatever you want. So it's really important to figure out what your story is. You know, there can be kissing, but if you're determined to like rip them apart and throw them into separate planets at the end of the story, you don't want to sell that as a romance because you're not going to get people that are going to appreciate why you made those choices and why your characters did what they did.
What if like really terrible, awful stuff happens, but in the end of the series, everyone's happy?
It's kind of like each book needs to end with a moment of catharsis. So
Yeah.
you have to make the reader feel good, even if the thing that happened is bad. They have to understand what happened. So, like looking at the first 50 Shades of Grey book, that was a bad ending. But
Words I never
it's 'cause,
thought I
like-
would hear from your mouth.
no, I mean,
I
no.
finally did watch the movie out of more
Yeah, I watched the movie. Didn't watch the book, but you could say the same thing about like several of the Twilight things. Like, there's not always good endings there. Like, sometimes they're rough and there's lots of chaos in the plot still that's going to be resolved into the next book. But they take that bad thing, but there's personal growth in the character, and that's where the catharsis comes from. It's like, oh yeah, she's figuring herself
okay.
out.
Yeah, okay.
She knows
But-
it's gonna happen. I have faith in her, even though everything else is horrible.
But there are some people, I agree with that, and it's an interesting question about series, because there are some authors who have really made a name for themselves by doing these really horrifying cliffhangers in romances.
Yep.
And that's something, even with writers I really like, if you throw me a cliffhanger and I have to wait, months for the next book, I'm so annoyed that I'm over it. And that's not the same as, like, there's still stuff going down in Christian Grey's world, but Christian and Anna are happy for the moment when the book ends. Like, that's fine. But I've read books by authors I really like, one in particular, and I'm not going to name it directly because I don't want to do a spoiler, but, like, the guy and the girl finally get together and they're making out and everybody's psyched. And it sort of flips. I guess you could argue that it just flips and incorporates, like, the first chapter of the second book and calls it the end of the first book is sort of the way it reads. Because just when you're satisfied, you get, like, a new scene where all of a sudden they come home from this perfect date and, the guy that attempted to murdered somebody else and is waiting there for them, and everybody's, like, knocked out and bloody when you close the book. And, like,
Yeah.
that's not a happy ever after.
It's just kind of like with the
satisfying
big
romance.
cliffhanger, you have to you're kind of taking an aesthetic risk. Are they going to appreciate that the book stops here? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and that's just the risk you take if you try it. And I can tell you one thing that did it well and people liked, but I hated. Hunger Games was really bad at cliffhangers.
Yeah.
They just
God, the cliffhangers.
barely survived. Hooray! And just like what happened? I want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
well,
not-
I
I'm
think
not good with that.
I think cliffhangers are okay if it's like a kind of serialized episodic thing, kind of like TV shows. A lot of TV shows end on a cliffhanger because next week you're going to get to know what's going on.
Right.
You know,
That's a
if
reasonable
you're
time to wait.
releasing one episode every month, that's fine if you end on a cliffhanger. But not when you have to wait a year to find out if they lived falling down the damn cavern.
Here's
So
a fun
mad
distinction
about
by Patricia Lynn. She says, straight-up romances always seem to introduce the characters by having the other ogle them. Oh.
Right.
That's true. It's not just about the ending. It's about, in a romance, to me at least, does the romance, is it a critical plot point? Is it part of the entertainment of the book? Or is it just something that happens to make, like, some extra tension?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an issue with like people including romance where it doesn't really need to be, but that's just like a larger topic of how much Disney movies have you watched over your years to ingrain romance into your brain, thinking it needs to be a part of the story, when sometimes it doesn't.
The flip side of that for me is that I try really hard, like, if I'm writing too many scenes in a row that are action or whatever they are, and I haven't had a kissing scene, like, I'm bored with my book, and I don't know why. And it's because I
yeah.
really like writing romance scenes, like, more than, I like the sundae as a vehicle for the whipped cream. So,
Yep.
maybe I should be writing more straight romance, I don't know, but I tend to like sci-fi
That-
movies, sci-fi movies.
I wish I knew the name of the graph, but it's like there's a like proportional motion graph which says that if you always go up, you're going to have to increase the amount of the thing that you're doing more to fulfill that catharsis that people want out of the thing. So if there's kissing scenes every scene, they're going to get super frustrated if they're just not like having an orgy by the end of the book. On the flip side, good writing, you can analyze it at a very deep level and see that it has rising and falling action. So you'll see a like mark of like they first kiss, and then the next scene is like they're thinking about the first kiss, but they're not kissing. And then the next scene they have their first makeout session, and then they'll think about the makeout session and also all that kissing. But then there's cheating. Oh my God, they cheated on me. Then they'll think about the cheating, but then they'll hook up at the end, and it's good.
And I do want to clarify that, like, just because I say there is a formula for romance, that doesn't mean I think it's easy to write. And as a matter of fact, it's probably one of the most difficult genres to write in because people know what's coming. Like, the reader knows that. The reader knows they're going to get a happy ending. Usher Evans said that romance equal the main plot is two people coming together. Romantic elements mean the two people as a subplot. And then somebody else mentioned the same thing about just, romance novel always has a happy ending for the hero and heroine. A book with romantic elements may not. So if you read a lot of romance novels and you pick up a book that says, hey, I'm a romance novel, there's a huge expectation of what you're going to get with that. That's incredibly hard as an author to write something compelling that's going to get somebody through that when they know how the book's going to end. Like,
yep. That's why you have to focus on characters and not plot.
Well, and I'm having a huge issue with the book that I'm writing right now, and I think it's driving EJ a little crazy as one of my crypt partners, because I am all about the love. I am love, I am romance, I am hearts, I am flowers, and because of that, I have a big issue of creating enough tension. So I'll create a little bit of tension, things will be like, ooh, there's a little tension there, and then the girl's like, oh my God, it's okay, it's fine, everything's fine, the world is fine, and it gets a little bit annoying. So there's a lot of editing I'm doing right now, and tension building and kind of going through. So hopefully next time EJ reads, he'll not want to murder my book. But yeah, maybe while I was writing, I think I maybe needed a lot, like very little tension in my life. So there's very little tension in my writing. Maybe that's it. But
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, this book needs a little extra oomph because
that's some introspective shit right there. Before we go too far, like I needed less tension in mine, so my draft was affected by it. That's crazy. It's probably right. That's why I think it's crazy. I think you're probably a genius. I want to introduce Gwen. Gwen stopped by. She is a friend of Kat. Gwen, did you jump on air to tell us what you're reading? Because we completely strayed away from that topic.
What am I currently reading right now? I'm actually currently reading a couple of books.
Hold on 1 second, Gwen. I'm going to turn you up. I can't hear you very well.
Turn it up. Turn it up.
All right, now let's try.
Last minute. So I wasn't know if I had to bring my book report with me, but I'm actually currently reading a biography by Salvador Dali and Sam Harris book right now. So none of my sci-fi fantasy stuff's not like off the shelf yet. So those are the two.
I can barely hear her.
Yeah, I know. I've got her turned up all the way. Can you scoot a little closer to your mic, Gwen? Or do you have I don't know what you're talking about.
Hold on.
I love EJ. You just scooted closer to your mic.
right.
He's trying to do it for her, but that doesn't really work.
Right.
Okay. Is this better?
The other closer.
Michael! Be nice to our guest, Michael.
Is this better or no?
No.
Nah, you're still real quiet.
All right, sorry guys.
No worries.
I don't know if Kat told you, like the last 5 months ago, I just relocated back from Maryland, so I'm back on the West Coast.
Cool.
And I still haven't gotten my area set up yet, so.
Oh, that's cool.
You at least have furniture now, right?
Yeah, but I'm still dealing with $10,000 claim of broken furniture. So.
Oh man.
So let's just say half of my books are in boxes still, which makes me sad because I love my books.
Well, the Salvador Dali biography that you're reading interests me extremely.
It's pretty interesting so far.
He's a crazy dude.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I love his art. I as an artist, I love his work, and I'm just I don't know any of his photo shoots he's ever done, or some of his off-topic work he's ever done. It's kind of interesting me a little bit more. So I just want to hear it from his perspective.
Right.
it's kind of like I have to approach like I approached Hunter S. Thompson's biography too, where it's like I gotta kind of like stop, read it, process it, maybe reread it again, and then go to this part.
Right. Yeah, no, I've read some about Dolly. I haven't read the biography. Although now you said it, I think it'd be completely fascinating. But,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously from his work, like, you can tell this is a guy that just saw the world a little differently.
Well, I don't know, like, so the first, like, segment I got to was, like, talking about his brother's death, and I don't know if it's, like, him, like, I don't know if this is a fact or not in the book, but I'm, like, I read it, and I was, like, so taken aback by it. I'm just, like, how am I going to process the rest of the book? But he was talking about how his family was, like, so, like, freaked out about him because they had a son a couple years before he was born die, named Salvador. And when he was born, they named him Salvador. And
Why
they're
would
kind
you
of
do that?
can't let this kid die, sort of thing. And I'm like, what? How am I gonna process this? But yeah, like since I'm kind of like, okay, take a little bit at a time and process what he's saying.
So basically what you're telling us is that you're not doing any light, like, fluffy summer reading at the beach. 'Cause that's, like, that tends to be my habit.
No,
Like, I pick stuff in the summer that, like, I wouldn't read normally. Like, I once read Water for Elephants during the summer, and, like...
Good luck with that.
Right, I've read all kinds of...
I read that on spring break, and I was like, oh.
I liked the movie.
I read The Mermaid Chair on a flight during the summer one time, like, just because I was curious, and that's totally a romance, like a weird thing with a priest and all kinds of stuff. But,
Oh.
Street books are hot right now.
I
read a lot of
find it
comic books
weird.
and graphic novels a lot. And sometimes I want to get into heavier stuff because I read so much entertainment of my graphic novels and whatever.
Right.
That it's like I want to like kind of like have a deeper thought while I'm reading for a while because you know.
Well, that makes sense because, like I said, I think summer reading a lot of times is about escapism. No, just from whatever you normally do. And so if you read a lot of comics or whatever, it makes sense that you get into some deep stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find it interesting that you're separating out EJ summer versus not summer because like after I stopped being in like high school, summer is no different than the rest of the year. It's just
What was that, like
hotter.
last week?
That's about it.
I think Kat just called me an infant.
Aww.
No, I'm saying like I find it interesting that people separate their time so much like that where I'm like my existence is the same regardless of what time of year it is.
You also live in California, so you like live in perma-summer.
Yeah, you're perma-summer, and you also like align your planets to the different conferences around the country.
Well, actually, it's within California. I haven't gone to one outside.
Within California, regardless.
Actually,
you
it's
don't plan by like the lunar calendar. You plan by the con calendar.
yeah, pretty much. But, no, like I'm just not a summer person. Like I am so sun sensitive that even sitting under a canopy, I got a sunburn from the white reflection off of a table.
Well, it's good that you live in a place that's mostly fog during the summer.
Yeah.
Actually,
It's
no,
literally
it's
whatever
not
you think,
mostly
that girl.
fog. It's like there is not a cloud in the sky, and it is 73 degrees.
No, the weather's weird lately. It's been weird.
That's a normal summer here.
I don't know. It's been really cold this summer.
Here it keeps going between I'm hot and it's raining. For no apparent reason.
Yeah, it's like I'm in the desert and it was like 70 degrees 4 days ago.
See, that's weird.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be like 100 where you are.
Okay. Sorry for taking you guys off topic.
That is like the subtitle of this entire podcast thing.
It was
All
a
right.
campfire.
So we have about 5 minutes left. Lindsay, just kicked off the topic in Twitter a few minutes ago about what everybody's listening to this summer. The great Idris says Demi Lovato's Cool for the summer. Haley Kyoko's Girls Like Girls. And Halsey's Room 93 EP. That's a bunch of stuff I don't know about. I know Demi Lovato. I don't know about Haley Kiyoko. Marie Emret says Photography by Ed Sheeran is what she's been listening to. His next album has been the inspiration for her current project. So
I've been listening to my awesome Pandora stations I made up.
So you make your own Pandora station?
Yeah, I make my own stations based on what activity I have to do. If I have to write anything, I can't have lyrics. because I have a processing disorder. So, as you know, being someone who is dyslexic and whatnot, so I have one station that's fantasy writing music. I have one station that's sci-fi writing music, and I have one that's I'm not writing music,
There you go.
which has everything from the Beatles to like country love songs to like Ed Sheeran to what do you call that? Nightcore.
I just typed in here. What I've been listening to mostly lately is I'm behind on my music listening, but the new Florence and the Machine album that came out a few weeks back, I've had that pretty well in nonstop repeat. And then the new Mumford that came out a month or two ago,
I haven't even listened to that yet. I can't believe it.
It took me a while. Like, I had a buddy that convinced, because I listened to the samples of the tracks, and it's not like there's nary a banjo or mandolin to be heard.
Yeah, their music. Like I heard one of their songs on the radio, and I was like, "Wait, what?"
It's gone a little U2, a little Coldplay, a little bit of different stuff. But I will say, after listening through it through a couple of times, it's pretty damn awesome. It's a pretty great album.
I like it. All three of those bands are on the I'm Not Writing playlist that I have.
And Monsters of Men, too. They just had a new album drop a couple weeks ago, and I
them.
love their first album. Really love it. It's kind of kooky, alternative pop music.
Their music videos are wildly entertaining.
Well, all their songs are about like animals like running amok and people being horrible, and it's kind of awesome. It's kind of eco music.
Yeah, they're a lot of their music videos are entertaining.
Amy, what about you? Are you listening to anything in particular this summer?
Well, so I went to the Kid Rock concert a couple of weeks ago. So
I saw that.
In my car, which is kind of old school, but there was a contest, so I bought it. And he's got believe it or not, he's got this like really sweet First Kiss song that works really well for me for writing. And actually 2 nights ago, I went to see Kelly Clarkson and Pentatonics.
Oh,
cool.
no way. That would have been cool.
It was really cool. Like Pentatonics, I don't know if you know them because I didn't.
I love them.
Yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah, somebody dragged me, and they're an a cappella group, and they're sick. Like
They are from where I live.
They're so phenomenally talented.
They're so good.
They did a performance with Kelly Clarkson of Heartbeat Song, which is it's like a sappy song, but it's one of my favorite.
I like that song. It has a nice rhythm.
That's a good beat.
And they did it with her. Find the YouTube video. Like, it's amazing. It's one of those, like, you're like, oh my god, like, this is what music is supposed to do. It's supposed to totally make you buzz in a way that you don't otherwise, you know? And I just discovered, I don't even know what you call them. I don't know if they're called or OAR, but they're actually American.
OAR.
So, I don't know. I just, like, found them randomly. I Shazammed one of their songs, and now it's kind of become my permanent playlist the last couple weeks. And, of course, a lot of One Direction, even though they're causing stress.
OAR is fantastic, and they've been around
having
forever,
babies.
so.
Yeah, they're having babies, maybe.
Baby? Babies?
Wait, which
You
band
not
is having
confirming
babies?
that?
Yeah, I know about that one. I know about that.
Wait, what?
One Direction's having
Yeah, One
babies, not OAR. OAR is a bunch of, like, they're in their 40s now, right?
Yeah.
I have a kid with this friend of mine.
Which-
Not my girlfriend, but my friend.
And we're
Okay,
gonna
what about
announce
you?
it
What,
to the entire world before we're out of our first trimester, which is just strange.
Yeah, that is a little
what?
strange.
Lindsay, what about you? What do you listen to?
That's a good question. I'm listening to a whole bunch of everything. Right now, during my day, it's a lot of spa music that I tune out, so I actually don't hear it. But I listen to local radio in the car because
Ooh.
my kiddo likes to dance to it.
Why is this suddenly playing music?
What's play music?
Oh, my Pandora just started blaring music, and I was like, ah!
I knew we were talking about it.
Right? It was listening.
It knew.
Sentient, run for the hills.
Simcoe.
Teamed up with Skynet.
Simcoe, what are you listening to? I'm just going to assume it's the Twitter soundtrack, or I mean, not the Twitter, the Twister soundtrack. I've got Twitter on the brain. The Twister soundtrack.
No. Honestly, I've actually been switching back and forth between Five Finger Death Punch, don't ask, and then Kawaii. If you ever seen
Doesn't that mean
So-
cute in Japanese?
They spell it differently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
you
it
know who I'm
does.
talking about, right? She
Yeah.
does covers on YouTube.
I don't know who you're talking about. I do know Five Finger Death Punch though.
Kawehi.
No.
Check her out on YouTube. That's actually really. She's like a beatbox / great singer, so it's kind of fun. A lot of covers.
Do you know what my favorite summer music thing is, though, like outside of any particular album or song or whatever, is the fact that now you can Shazam something and then it'll show up in your Shazam playlist on Spotify. So I'm obsessed with Shazam. Like, I used to work with the guys who invented it. It's been my favorite app since it came out. I love how you can, like, interact with the world and your phone at the same time, kind of. And now whenever I hear a song out and I'm like, oh my God, this would be such great writing music, it shows up, I Shazam it, and it shows up on my computer. And this is, like, something that's only been possible in the past month and a half, and it's totally changed. Like,
That's very cool.
That's
it's
awesome.
really cool. It's like, you know, when you hear a song, you're like, oh my God, this would be so cool for, like, this scene, and you get a couple thoughts in your head, but then you lose it, because by the time you sit down, you've forgotten about that song and where you were, and now all of a sudden, it's accessible, and I get back to that place, and I'm loving it.
And I think
Yeah, I
that's
use Shazam on my phone.
such a
But
great analogy.
Siri
for
also
writing.
uses Shazam. You can just have Siri do it. You don't even have to open the Shazam app.
I hate Siri. We don't have a good relationship.
Oh.
I
I
love
like Siri.
I think what Amy said's a great
I
comparison
like
to
her
writing.
because when she can't receive signal for any reason, she always says witty, hilarious things like, "I'm sorry, C-3PO didn't give me that information."
Oh, that's funny.
Not my
She has
Siri.
really
My
hilarious
Siri.
things she says when she has a glitch, like a signal glitch.
Now we're all
Ivor-
good to go glitch her.
Right?
No, Ivor, my son, loves to talk to her, and he says really disgusting 4-year-old things. And the other time she did that, and she kept going, "Aw, that's sad." And I was like, "Oh dear." Ivor, talk about something else. But I think was it Chelsea Starling said, someone on Facebook the other day said to ask Siri, like, "What does the fox say?" over and over again. And so I had Ivor do that, and it was really funny. So then he was going, chow, 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 chow. I don't know, whatever, 4-year-old talk, but it was funny. But that's what we do with Siri. Other than that, I don't really use her a lot.
Well, no, it's a song.
Yeah.
No, I know that. I know the song. Oh, my God.
Lindsay, you've been in a coma for months. What are you
No,
talking
I just was like, well, she's singing you the song. Like, it didn't.
No, I know, but because whatever. It was funny.
It was funny.
But yes, I knew it was a song. Thank you. No, so she was saying it out loud, but then Ivor was singing it back to her.
Oh, cute. Okay,
Yeah.
that's very cute.
So on the topic of music and good like people who do covers, Pandora shot me this band called Anthem Lights, and they do nice covers. And there was another one. There's two really good cover groups where you're like, oh, that's an interesting medley of songs.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
think
nice
this
Showing me the other one.
this movement of acapella stuff where they're doing all these mashups of songs and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
there have been
not-
bands around that have done it forever. What's the rap guys that do basically do kind of like hardcore cheer music? Crap, I forget their name. I actually listen to them when I run and exercise all the time. But they basically just mash up songs and they put their own lyrics to a lot of it. But anyway, so it's kind of interesting. The internet makes everything possible and awesome.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. It's some band of 4 guys that really looks like One Direction to me.
Well, guys, we have reached the end of our hour. We're at 7:05 my time, 10:05 everybody else's time, I think. But just want to say thank you to everybody that listened. We had some folks tuning in and listen. Everybody on Twitter, you were awesome.
And thanks for everyone that jumped on.
Yeah, I think Michael and Gwen, and we hope we want to do more of these types of things in the future where we kind of involve the community more. So get your mics, be ready.
I will. Next time I will, guys. Sorry.
Right. Gwen, we'll be able to hear Gwen next time. You sure?
And I'd also love to put a call out for our NA Lit Chat team. If there are things that people want to talk about in the future while we start to design our calendar and things, send any of us links at EJ or NA Lit Chat, just a little love or a little note, and let us know if there are topics that you want to talk about too.
Yes, please.
Genius idea. We'd love to have that. This week's topic was just more fun. We all have busy summer schedules, and so we're just trying to think of something to get on and get everybody just talking about what they're up to. For one thing, I haven't caught up with. I've been absent from a lot of them, so I was just curious to know who was writing and who was reading and who was hanging by the pool with kids and all that good stuff. But absolutely, we're always open to new topic ideas and suggestions. We'll cover anything if you give us enough time to whip it together. So. With
we'll
that,
look at anything as long as you cover it. I'm sorry, it's
Wait
slipped.
a second. What just happened?
It's
What
after
is-
10. My edit slipped.
All right. And this has been 50 Shades of NA Lit Chat with EJ Wesley, Alicia Cat Van Seal, Amy Evans, Chris Fox, our LK Lewis, our special guest friends Gwen and Michael Simcoe. We appreciate everybody listening, and we will see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.